Hey guys, what's up? Alright, so I'm going to make my EDC blade. My EDC blade is called the Grasshopper. Really small blade. This one is already heat treated. I use this one as a blank so I can make multiples. And as you can see, this is 3/16, 1.5 inch. There you go. I don't know if you can see that. It's 1095 steel. I guess 187 millimeters or whatever that number's for. But I buy 48 inch. I use New Jersey Steel Baron, NJ Steel Baron. He's excellent. Aldo, if you're listening, you're great people. He'll always call you back. It's not a problem. I've used him before, and he always has multiple sizes of steel. Most of the steel that I was buying from Jantz only came in 36 inches, and you had to get 1/4, 3/16 or whatever. But he can pretty much get you any steel you want, so definitely check him out. NJ Steel Baron, and he's local to me anyway, so great people. He'll answer any question you have. You can email him, call him, whatever. So I'll just give my shout out to him. But anyway, these are going to be available. They're already available on the website, 3riverblades.com. I could do these in a Scandi grind, saber grind, whatever, you let me know. This one is 5/32. This is a little bit smaller, but I like the 3/16 because it gives it a little bit more refined ricasso edge. So I'm going to use that. And as you can see, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut all these out of my 48 inch piece of steel and grind on them, and hopefully I'll get them out to heat treat as soon as possible. And as you can see over here too, I have quite a bit of blades that also need to go to heat treat. So all the shiny ones, they're all going to heat treat. So I'll cut on these, and hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Alright guys, so cut all my blanks, then I'm going to refine them on the belt grinder. I just wanted to make a quick note, just wanted to cover this real quickly. You want to take your template, make sure it fits inside the bar stock. The less cutting, the easier it is for you. You could put this on a 2-inch blank, but you're wasting a 1/2 inch of steel and you're paying for it. So what I try to do is always make my blanks fit inside. You always use the same stock over and over again, and then there's very minimal cutouts that I need to do now. It makes my life a lot easier. Just a little tip right there. Alright guys, hollow grind. Same principle applies when you're doing a hollow grind as you do the flat grind. I got all my blanks. This is my template. The template is actually made in a flat grind, but in order to be a knife maker, I mean a really good knife maker, you need to know all your grinds. I could flat grind all day, and it is a lot quicker. It's a lot easier, and a lot of times you see a lot of knives like that because once you get that flat grind, it's a lot simple to finish out too. Just because there's no hollows anymore. There's nothing. It's just a flat piece of steel that is a triangle. And that's really convenient. So there's nothing wrong with the flat grind, but the hollow grind is primarily digging out the steel in maybe a canoe type deal, or a you know how you hear convex? This is concave. So what you're doing is you're digging out a trench of steel, and I don't know if you could see it. It's probably really hard to see, but there is sort of a divot there. If you can see that right there, you see there's a little bit of a canoe type thing going on, and it's not easy to perfect. I'm still learning how to do it. Another way is you could see right there how there's a little bit of a concave right here as well. And The reason for the hollow grind is maximum cutting ability. And what happens is you have a really, really sharp edge here, and there's no friction in this part. Okay, so that's good and bad. Basically, it's really good because you can get all your cuts, super sharp, super fast. It's a good cutting knife. But what's bad about it is that if you sharpen and use it for years and years and years, you'll eventually get to a point where you can no longer sharpen the knife, and then it's no good any longer. However, I don't see that being a problem as long as you hollow out a very large portion of the knife, and I think that's a pretty decent size, maybe an inch up. I think you'll be good for a while. It is a very, very pretty knife. I want to say pretty grind. It looks great on a lot of knives. A lot of knife makers like to use hollow grind. It does make the knife look better. It pops. And again, it's a good cutting knife. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use a hollow grind in, let's say, a bushcraft knife or something that you're going to go chopping with, just because what you're doing is you're thinning out the edge extremely thin to give it that sharp cutting edge. But there's no meat behind it, because what you did is essentially remove all the backing right here. So, just food for thought. On the smaller knives, the neck knives, the cutting knives, the skinning knives, hollow grind is awesome. And of course, if you're going to do a showpiece, do hollow grind because it looks awesome. But on everything else, in my opinion, that's what I would do, is just stick to the flat grinds or the saber grinds if you're going to use it for bushcraft or something like that. All right. A couple things on the wheel. Basically, the higher the wheel, actually the bigger the wheel, the better, especially for beginners. This is a 10-inch wheel. If you can get 14, even better. Because what this does is it allows more of a bevel inside here, the larger the wheel. All right, I don't know if you can understand that, but for an 8-inch wheel, you're only... Actually, for an 8-inch wheel, what you're going to do is, as you're grinding out the steel, you have a smaller touch space, I guess you can say. So where the wheel actually makes contact with the steel, it's a smaller area. Whereas if you had a larger wheel, it touches more of the steel and removes it faster. Okay, so I hope that kind of explains it. When you do hollow grinds, you can do it with or without the guide plate or the shelf. I always use a shelf. I tried it without the shelf. It just doesn't work for me. A lot of guys like to do it freehand. If you're comfortable with your hands out there like this for a long extended amount of time, go for it. For me, I just can't do it. Also, what I saw, which was really cool, is they have a bar and then a little piece of rebar that's sticking out, and they use the rebar as a pivot point against the wheel. So I've seen that, and that's awesome. Alright guys, what I like to do is always start off really slow. I know not everybody has a variable speed grinder, but if you do, this is where it all comes into play, especially if you're new to the hollow grind. Like I said, it's not a very easy grind to master, and again, I'm still learning. So I knock it down a little bit, find out where I want my ricasso to be, and again, just like the flat grind, do your plunge cut, knock it off. Put a little pressure on there. Okay. Just like the flat grind, that's all you're doing, just putting a little pressure. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'll do a little bit on each side. Start your bevel. You can push a little bit harder if you like. Again, what I do is I use used belts first because you don't want all the flakes to flip off. So I use a used belt to plunge cut it, and then switch to a nice new sharp belt to do all the cuts. Again, the reason is you spend $7 on a belt. You don't want all the grit to fly off because you're hitting the edge of the steel. Alright, keep it wet constantly. Alright, so there I did that. Just cut a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is a plunge cut. Speed it up a little bit. Make sure I hug one side. What I'm going to do is go in on an angle like this to plunge cut it and just hold it there for a couple minutes. Alright guys, so basically I did my plunge cuts there. Okay, you can see plunge cut. And on a hollow grind, you are going to have to move the knife. Okay, it's not as simple as the flat grind. If you didn't get a chance, go take a look at my video on the flat grind, how to flat grind a knife. But basically what you're doing is you're moving it across and you're going to have to pick it up at some point. Where you pick it up is going to determine where you move this line. If you pick it up too soon, you're going to move the grind back. Okay, so you have to get comfortable with what you have set up for you. Okay, so if you have this plate, I know that when I get to this point right here where this round is, then I use a little bit of pressure and I just drag it up while leaving pressure on the guide shelf itself. Okay, so I use the guide shelf as a guide. I mean, that's just the way I do it. You know, if you want to do it another way, that's up to you. Also, what you need to realize is that as you are pulling it, because you are using a hollow grind, the tip end will get thinner faster. Okay, so you need to make sure that as you're pulling it, you might want to let off a little bit when you get to here, and always to keep a constant watch on this side and on your bevel line, because remember what you're doing is you're hollowing out the center, which means this side and this side are going to be your thickest. So what you want to do is marry the bolt and have this thin and this line straight as much as you possibly can. So I'm going to do some more grinding and hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about. Alright guys, so I finished with 36 grit belt. Then I'm going to go to a 60 grit and then maybe a 120, 220, and then that's it off the heat treat. A couple things I just want to mention for tips. Basically, I use a guide. I like using a guide, but what you want to do is you want to set up a groove inside the steel, okay? And then constantly use that groove to either adjust forward or back to thin this line out or to straighten that line out in the back. Okay, so it's either straighten this one out or thin this one out. And as long as you follow a groove with the belt, you won't have all those little wavy lines. And I know a lot of guys are gonna say, well, you know, I tried it, I get a divot here, I get a wavy line there, I get a yes, I know, it's a pain in the neck. And what I've done is, like I said, I use guides. You know, you can use a template if you can find one, to make one for a hollow grind. I don't know if they make one, but if you can find one, great. But basically, I set up a groove, a small one at first. It's got to be really small, and then I only grind from here to here. Okay, so if I'm grinding from here to here, I know at least at this point it's got to be straight. At a certain point, I'm going to have to cant the blade up so I can get this nice round edge. But if I'm straight from here to here, and then on the other side from here to here, I know that starts to dig the canoe out with the steel. So that'll be my guideline to make the hollow. Okay, and then all I have to do is refine it. And you'll see, as you're doing it, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Also, when you're doing it, you might have to lower the speed or go to a different belt or whatever you have to do. Maybe kind of walk it up a little bit, or you know, walk it back so you can get that grind on there. You can figure it out. Like I said, you're dealing with a wheel instead of a platen now, and as long as you have steady components, like, you know, your feet are comfortable, your hands are comfortable. You might have to take a break, because I do find that hollow grinding takes a lot longer, double the time than it does to do a flat grind. Alright, so that's probably why those knives cost a little bit more, because, you know, I'm only grinding 6 blades today, and the day's almost over, and I have 2 more to do. So it's taking quite a long time. If it was a flat grind, I would have been done already. But I wanted to increase my skills, and I wanted to show you guys how to do a hollow grind, so that's what I'm going to do. Everything else after the grind is just touch-up work and drilling holes for the handles. Alright guys, so there you have it, finished product. That's what you call a hollow grind. Now, you don't have to bring the hollow grind all the way up. You know, it's just a habit for me. I like having a long, deep hollow grind. I don't know if you could see it. Trying to make sure that you can see the grind itself. You see how thick it is right there, and then it just kind of bevels out. That's how it should look. Okay. This is called the Grasshopper. This is my EDC knife production. As you can tell, I got quite a few to do. If you're interested, you know, go up to the website, threeriverblades.com. I hope you enjoyed the vid. I hope you guys learned something. One last thing I want to leave you with is, if you do decide to go with a hollow grind, you can't go back. Meaning, once you start with the hollow grind, you can't then decide I want to do a flat grind, because all the meat, all the steel that you took off is now going to leave this big canoe in the center. And if you leave that big canoe in the center, there's no way to put it back. So, you know, if you're going to do the hollow grind, make sure that you commit to it. It is a very, you know, good looking grind. It sells a lot of knives, but the idea behind it is not just to look good. It's more of a cutting edge. So understand that if you are going to do a hollow grind, make sure that you do a cutting edge. You know, it's not really made for choppers. You can do it, but what you're doing is you're thinning out this blade edge pretty much up to the center of the blade. So that's really thin. Great for slicing, not great for chopping. But overall, I think it's a, you know, pretty decent grind. You know, anybody could learn it. I've pretty much taught myself. You know, a lot of great videos on YouTube, and hopefully this will be one of them. Alright guys, go up to threeriverblades.com. That knife is available on the website. It's called the Grasshopper. It's a EDC production model, and hope you enjoyed the vid. We also have Facebook, Google, and Twitter. So thanks for watching. Bye.